Emotions are hard. Emotions are messy. And I try to avoid emotions like the plague. Would you say other people do as well?
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about that. And then you can give us some tips for how to live in those emotions without deflecting, maybe.
Perfect.
Welcome to It's a Mental Thing, the podcast that dives deep into the power of the mind and the heart of mental health. Whether you're navigating life's challenges, seeking balance, or simply curious about how to care for your mind, you're in the right place. Each week, we explore stories, strategies, and expert insights to help you build resilience, find clarity, and embrace a healthier you. So take a deep breath and let's journey together toward a brighter, more mindful tomorrow. Welcome to It's a Mental Thing, because your mental health matters.
Okay, so leading off what we're talking about today is emotional skills people were never taught. And I think this probably goes way back to childhood. And
Okay.
now that, within our age group or even older, people that are now going into therapy or even in their 20s where they find themselves saying, I would like some help with this.
Right. And I feel like in my age group, like born in the 80s, like you just you didn't talk about these kinds of things. It was not a thing that it's so widely talked about today. And I love that. Right. But it wasn't.
Yeah. And so that's why I think, I wanted to talk about these emotional skills that we were just never taught. And I do think it is great that kids that are growing up with maybe parents like us that are in therapy or a generation of people who have decided to try therapy, they are learning to do a couple of things that I want to talk to the audience about that maybe you're feeling like you've never been able to do before.
Yeah.
And the first one is how to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of going straight to fixing it or numbing it.
Which I feel like we would be like so good at, right?
Yeah, and that's what most people. So that is kind of what we were taught.
Yeah.
Is to run from it. Like you mentioned, avoidance.
A total avoidance, yeah.
And
yeah.
that's on my list of things not to do that we're going to go over. But most people do that because it feels as though we have fixed it if we totally avoid it.
True.
So sitting with that uncomfortable emotion instead of going straight to fix it mode or straight to numbing it, brushing it under the rug. What I want people to learn and what I want them to know is to actually name what's happening.
Okay.
And so there doesn't have to be a story. It can be very short. It can be very simple. Okay. So without a story, we're wanting to name what's happening in that moment. So for example, I'm spiraling, I'm out of control, something is wrong with me. I'm saying all of these things out loud.
Yeah.
And it truly may be, and I don't want to devalue a true-blown anxiety attack or a panic attack or a manic episode. But if we're in a situation, we're both moms, and there are times where, and I see a lot of women in my office who are moms, where we feel like a lot of the heavy load lays on us. And that spiral moment is so different for everyone. And where we feel like a lot of people say, I'm losing my mind, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're not actually, but instead of having that spiraling moment, I want you to name what's actually happening in that moment. So for example, I'm having anxiety in this moment because a lot of things around me aren't going as planned.
Like looking at the reality of the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Taking a step back and looking at, I'm a little overwhelmed right now and I'm overstimulated. Or this feels heavy, especially with politics or stuff that's in the news.
Yes.
A lot of stuff's going on. And instead of just brushing it off and pretending it's not bothering you, if it's bothering you, you can say and name, this feels heavy. This feels really heavy on me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that feeling is, but I'm going to sit with it.
And I think so, and that's okay. It's okay that
Yes.
we're not trying to necessarily figure it out, right? We are naming the realities of the situation.
Yeah, and that's why the main point is to sit sit with that uncomfortable feeling rather than fixing it
Right.
or going straight to just, I'm numb. I don't want to feel it.
Yeah.
And so the other one is, with anxiety, we hear a lot of people say, I have tightness in my chest. Instead of spiraling into that full-blown anxiety attack, name that. I have some tightness in my chest. Maybe I should make sure I'm breathing from my diaphragm. Or am I breathing from my chest? So what we're actually doing is speaking, like you said, reality into what's happening in that moment. But those are things, they're short and they're simple, but sometimes it's really hard to do. But those are things that we were never taught.
We weren't, and my therapist is really big on the naming,
Yes.
even just looking around me and naming things that are happening currently right then.
Right.
And that has been super helpful for
Yeah.
me. And it seems so elementary, but it's so helpful in the moment.
Well, and especially if you grew up in a stage or generation, the generation above us is still in that phase of, do I really believe in therapy?
Yeah.
Do I really want to go to therapy? Is it worth it? And it's just a generational thing. And so these are things most people emotionally were never taught.
Right.
So what labeling does, like your therapist was saying, it actually engages the observation part of the brain that creates just enough distance from what's present, like what's happening,
Yep.
without pushing away that feeling. And
Right.
so-
We're not discounting it
right.
at all.
We're
Okay.
labeling it, and it's giving our brain time to look at it and say, okay, right now, my son is he's being a little chaotic, but I'm feeling overwhelmed. But let me take a deep breath, and this is okay. This isn't an angry moment for me to feel towards my kid. This isn't a anxious moment where I can't take that deep breath and say, let me calm down first. Let me calm my nervous system down and then direct my attention to him.
Right.
And that can be in any situation. So labeling our feelings and sitting in it helps us better understand it. So
That
that's
makes
one
sense,
thing.
yeah.
The next one was let the emotion be physical. And so what I mean by that is, so emotions live in our body first. So we feel
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
So that's why we call it symptomatic anxiety, or that's why we have symptoms. A lot of symptoms are physical. So we want to ask, where do I feel this? Where do I feel this feeling?
Okay.
So obviously with this mental health podcast, we talk a lot about anxiety. We talk a lot about depression, mood disorders, anything. So I might ask someone, like, if I asked you, like, where do you feel your anxiety the most? What part, like, where would you feel it?
Like I would always feel my anxiety in between my shoulder blades.
Really?
In the top of my back.
So some tension. Which is where, like, a therapist might suggest some muscle movement where there's massage or muscle relaxation techniques. Mine was always my stomach. I would, even as a kid, you hear the topic or even the saying of nervous stomach.
Yep.
That's exactly where it came from. It's a feeling and a symptom that we have. And that's why you hear your kids say, "Mommy, my stomach hurts."
Yep.
And if you check in with them and you say, did you eat something wrong or bad? No. Do you feel like you're going to be sick? Sometimes yes. Most of the time no. But what it is we didn't have the terminology to say, I just feel it feels like my stomach is in knots. It's not the butterflies of like, oh, this feels
Not
great.
excitement.
No,
Yeah.
it's a different feeling. So we want to make sure that we are saying what we're feeling in that body and where we're feeling it.
Oh, I like that. I really like that, especially with our kids.
Yes.
To be able to help them name what we're feeling.
Right.
Rather than just be like, you're fine. My stomach hurts. Okay, well, you're sick.
Yes.
No, let's really dig a little bit deeper and help them to name exactly what they're feeling.
Right. Well, and and I wrote the book. I have butterflies in my stomach.
Yes.
And so that book is about how I felt as a kid because I did not have the terminology of what that meant.
Yeah.
And I have worry monsters in my stomach. It wasn't butterflies. It was more of a different feeling that a child may not know how to explain.
Mhm.
And so worry monsters can be, I'm worried about this or I'm feeling this. And people can have that too. But we know the feeling when everybody says I have butterflies in my stomach, it's always something exciting and it's something
Yes.
sweet and it's something good happening to us. We have those worries, it's a very different feeling.
Look, I get worry monsters in my tummy. I'll
It's
tell you
very
right
different.
now. It
But we have
totally
to
is.
know,
Yeah.
and we have to be able to say that. But
Yeah.
again, something we were never taught.
Mhm.
The next one, like I've said this already before, is it feels heavy.
You are, yes,
You know,
preaching to the choir.
yeah, and a lot of people don't really. That can mean something different for everyone.
Yeah.
You hear people say it's like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, and that may mean they're overwhelmed.
Mhm.
That may mean they're grieving. That may mean there's so many things.
So many things.
You know, you want to ask them, a friend, or I may ask a patient, or you may ask your child, when you feel that feeling, does it move? Does it change?
Oh,
Does it?
what do you mean by that when you
Mhm.
say, does it move?
So, symptomatic feelings like this. So yours goes straight from the shoulder blades, and that's a normal feeling. The tension in the shoulders and around the shoulder blades. That's where we hold a lot of tension, and that's because we tend to sit with like our shoulders as earrings.
Yep.
And someone can come to you and push those shoulders down, and immediately your nervous system goes, "Oh!" Like it's almost like you want to slouch in that moment because you've been so uptight up here, then that causes chest pain. So like it moves from here to here to maybe up here, then a tension headache or a migraine, or then the gut. Like so it moves.
So when you're asking, does it move? You're asking physically.
Where are you feeling it? Mm-hmm. In every portion. I have a client who feels it in her legs. Pain, deep pain in her legs, lower back.
Isn't our bodies are so weird and
It's amazing.
so crazy. It truly is amazing, though.
But you have to listen to your body. Your body tells you when you're tired, you listen to it, you need rest because that's your immune system saying, hey, slow down.
Take a chill pill. Yep.
When you're anxious or when you're overwhelmed or you're feeling too much, your body feels these things.
Yes.
The tension in your shoulders, you need a massage. You need to see a chiropractor. You need to get that tension out. And people have said the stress knots in your because it's like when a masseuse would go down your back, it may be like bump bump, like because they feel the stress and they feel that tension. And all that is just I'm not going to say the right words because I'm not an expert in massages or
I don't know. You get a lot of massages.
I'm a massage girl.
You love a massage.
But it's because of my self-care.
Yes.
And I know my tension is in my shoulders.
Yeah.
I'll walk in and every time they're like, girl, your shoulders. I'm like, I know, it's fine.
Just work on it.
It's fine. I know it's been about a month. But what it is it's I don't know if it's a calcium buildup or whatever it is in the shoulders. But it's a lot of times within the shoulders and the blades, shoulder blades.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll ask them, does it move? And where do you feel it? There's an activity I do with a lot of kids, and it's just like a gingerbread man, a plain little white sheet of paper that has just a plain little gingerbread looking guy on it. And I will ask them to draw or color where they feel it.
Yeah.
Most of the times they draw like red on the tummy, blue in the head, red or orange in the hands. And that tells me a lot. I feel scared in my stomach. I feel sad in my head. And so that gives me a visual image of where they are feeling all of their feelings.
Absolutely.
So I use that a lot too. And in that, what I want people to know is we're not trying to relax or change it. Like we're not trying to change that feeling.
Okay.
We're just trying to let it exist.
Like you said, we're sitting in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're letting that feeling exist, and we're showing ourselves that, oh, okay, this will pass. This
Yeah.
feeling will pass.
And it will, and it always does. And
Mhm.
like you thinking back and through your history, it does. But
Yeah.
in the moment,
Oh,
when you're so in your head or you're so in your body,
right.
right? It doesn't feel like that's ever going to
Mm.
pass.
Yeah.
So I really do love this advice of being able to sit with that,
Right.
name it,
Mhm.
find the realities around you
Mhm.
of what's actually
Yeah.
happening. So helpful.
Yeah. And I just think if people knew, some of the things we were never taught, we've talked a little bit about where we feel it sitting in the mess of it all. But
Mhm.
then there are things as far as like we were never taught to set boundaries, like true boundaries with
Yeah.
ourselves, boundaries with our families. And really we want to reframe, a boundary isn't punishment.
Mm-mm.
That goes from, again, we're talking about things we were never taught, but a boundary sounds like, whoa.
It definitely can have a negative connotation, I
Yeah,
feel like,
yeah.
but it can also be very
And
positive in a
it's
lot of
it's
ways.
it's very it's information that we are trying to give to someone saying, I'm not going to participate in this anymore.
Mhm.
And that's what a healthy boundary is. So again, something we were never taught.
Yeah.
We weren't taught to sit in our mess of stress and anxiety and overwhelmingness. We weren't taught to understand what feeling those symptoms were. And we weren't taught to set healthy boundaries, which would eliminate so much of the stress and the overwhelming parts of our lives, whether it's family that we have to set boundaries with, because
Mhm.
that's one thing we don't talk about either, is sometimes within family members or friends, we do have to set a boundary of
Right.
what I'm not going to participate in. And again, it's not a punishment, it's not a rejection, it's not even about control, but boundaries are letting someone know, hey, this has been too much for me. And I need to step away to regain some control in this situation.
Mhm.
It's not a control thing against you, but it's for me.
Yeah.
And that's just something I don't think people taught us how to do.
Mhm. No. No, because I think it just had such I don't even feel like it was a thing,
No. Yeah.
before.
Yeah, we hear so much about it now. Like, do you have healthy boundaries? Did you set the
Like,
healthy
I don't
boundary?
ever remember
Mm-mm.
thinking about, talking about, hearing people talk about that
Right.
at all growing
Right.
up.
And I don't think either that with even those three things that I've already listed of things that, emotional skills that we were never taught, boundaries wasn't one of them until now we know, wait, I need to set something in place that keeps me safe,
Yes.
that protects me, that protects my family, that protects my mindset. And that's not a selfish thing, but maybe we were taught it was
Mhm.
in different
Yes.
words or
Yes.
different
I
terminology.
think so.
So that was another one I wanted to bring up. And, going ahead and accepting that a healthy boundary isn't really a red flag. I think we think that everything now is a red flag or a green flag or a yellow flag or whatever it may be. But it is actually just letting people know that I, I don't want to be treated a certain way anymore,
Mhm.
or I don't want that stress in my life anymore. And again, something we were never taught to accept.
I think it's a form of self-care too,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And I think that, going back into things that we were never taught, there's so much of it that the generation that we grew up in, we were outside a
Mhm.
lot. We were in the sunshine a lot. We had friends. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, the internet telling us how to treat people. We weren't comparing ourselves to a lot of things
Yeah.
other than maybe what we saw like on MTV,
Sure.
or TRL
Yeah.
back in the day. But we loved like pop music or pop culture. But now our kids don't have even a boundary of what's reality versus a fantasy
No.
world.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're having to teach them.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you really stop and think about it, I'm like,
Mhm.
we had it good. We really did.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there were things we were not taught,
Yeah,
emotional things we were not taught. And no slam to mom and dad, right? Like
they
they
didn't
didn't
know.
know.
Yeah.
Like we know better, we do better, but man, the things that we have to teach our kids now, it's a little scary.
Yeah. And
Talking about feeling heavy, right?
yeah, and it is, but we're seeing it as our parents did the best they could with what they knew
Yeah.
because of how they were raised. If the generation above us doesn't believe in therapy, the generation above them definitely wasn't going to therapy.
Yeah.
And they were dealing with heavy things. Like
Yeah.
our grandparents, think about the stuff that they lived through,
Yeah.
but they all made it. And so they see how tough they were.
Right.
And then our parents were taught to be tough. And then we grow up in somewhat of a different world.
Mhm.
And now our kids are growing up in an extremely different world where they are felt to be, I'm supposed to be tough. I'm supposed to feel this way. No, you're not supposed to feel anything other than what you're actually feeling.
Right.
Being able to name that feeling, being able to label that feeling, being able to sit with that feeling comfortably,
Mhm.
and being able to express to your parents or to someone that's safe what you're feeling, how you're feeling it, where you're feeling it, and setting a boundary around certain things in your life that you know aren't good for you.
Yeah.
And those are things, again, that we may never have been taught and that kids today aren't being taught maybe,
Mhm.
and that our parents never even knew to teach us.
Right.
So it's these are huge emotional skills that just need to be discussed and talked about and need to be taught to generations
I agree.
below us and to continue to be taught.
Yeah.
Or, our world just won't know how.
I mean, I'm still learning as a 40
Yeah.
something year old,
Yes.
right?
We're all learning
yeah.
and we're all changing and our world is ever changing and that's not going to change.
Right.
So if that isn't going to change, if technology is here to stay, if ChatGPT is here to stay, if AI is here to stay, then we have to make sure our kids are emotionally secure and have the emotional skills to deal with all of it.
Yeah. And the reality of it all, too.
Right.
Right. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Be sure to follow our podcast on your favorite platform or find us on YouTube. Just a quick note, It's a Mental Thing is here to inform and inspire, but it's not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you're facing a mental health challenge, we encourage you to seek help from a licensed therapist like Erica or a healthcare provider. Remember, your well-being is personal, and only a professional can provide guidance tailored to your unique needs.